Good morning, www.andrewmarkmusic.com. This is the Golden Rule series, Winter Solstice 2018. This is part 8 out of 12. I'll preface it by saying, well, I guess I ran across some right-wing economic theory today. I mean, it's not the first time I've come across the Mises Institute and the Austrian School of Economics. They seem to have, how do I put it? They live totally in their minds, right? So they've sort of cut themselves off from the earth in reality, and they think that their equations solve everything. So if it's just equatable, right, and all the numbers add up, then everything's fine. It's a really bizarre. It's a bizarre situation. It's almost disembodied, or what I consider disembodied from reality, and that's what we know about the earth, its resources, and various laws that come into effect, and I would say the earth and its laws are our master, and I don't know, maybe it's a conflict between the biosphere and the noosphere, between the mind and the body. I'm not sure, but it's very unsettling. They seem to have rewritten history. I mean, there's a saying that the victors rewrite the history, and these guys have through the central banking cartels and a worldwide system of usury written history. I mean, most people, if given a choice, a reasonable choice that wasn't forced and coercive, would choose a simple life, and raise their children and not have to work 100 hours a week to pay users and taxes and inflation. But nobody's being given a choice here, and I'm going to touch on that in this post, that this is not a democracy. As a Christian Gnostic, this is the Demiurge's show. We're dealing with the Luciferian aspect of it, which is turning man into gods, and that is yet to come. That'll come through AI. At any rate, okay, just to finish that thought, and that's juxtaposed to the viciousness of the left, who are always wanting revolution against the oligarchs, and whenever they get their revolution, they put in new oligarchs. So it's a bizarre situation. Pimps and whores. Yep. This is what the Cabal has done to humanity. We are, for the most part, either one or the other now. Oh, sure. A few are not. The Amish. The Amish? Indigenous people still living on their own terms. The rare money few that only own one property and haven't succumbed to rent seeking and unnecessarily exploiting and coercing others for their rent, food, education, and health care. Please read the series in its entirety to understand why this is, from my perspective. The rest of us are either pimping everything and everyone big time or having to whore ourselves out just to survive. Now, of course, the point I'm making in this series of posts is the modus operandi which took over the earth about 250 years ago is no longer sustainable. Maybe it was in 1850, even if the ethics were and are dubious. Nonetheless, this mode of doing things isn't going to end well. I've made the point there'd still be a chance for civilization if we altered course on these issues, but I hold little hope, as I pointed out, that what's happening here in these times isn't a democracy. Let's look at the bullshit of the Cabal. Let's look at the bullshit the Cabal's been spewing for millennia. That humanity is a lump of clay on a fallen rock and doesn't deserve better than either being a pimp or a whore. Yes, this is basically Western theism, what I call the slave cult of Saturnalia. That humanity did something in another life which caused them either to be a pimp or a whore. Well, we know Eastern philosophy. That humanity is a food source for financial predators and especially financial systems of coercion and exploitation. Well, thank you, economic Darwinism. All of these are false from the Christian Gnostic perspective. From this point of view, you've simply been duped by lying archons. I need to touch on why Islam is not the solution to our problems today. I say this considering that at its best, it didn't exploit and coerce humanity's basic needs. Nor did the early church for a brief period, which was a sharing economy. The fact of the matter, though, is that Islam is, for the most part, a toxic affair, and it's been that way from near its inception. Yes, there have been times when it created a high culture, but even at that, Islam was still an enforced theocracy. The Islamists did do a fairly decent job of hiding its solar roots, but the internet has blown the whistle on that one. Its origins are as much solar as Judaism and Christianity. Like its older siblings, Islam's foundation crumbles on the historicity of Moses, who was not a historical figure as written in canon. This series of posts considers Islam another machination of the archons. We'll be touching on Hinduism and Buddhism as we wrap up this series. In the last 4 parts of this series, we'll begin speculation on who these lying archons are. That their liars is my view. Although I'll consider and include 1 or 2 scenarios when the archons are only caught in a web of complexity and are not evil. I don't believe this, but I like being thorough, so I'll include this unlikely scenario. And I'll go over that possibility, that this earth is a school, and whether we volunteered to come here. So this gets into, New Age thought that is resurfaced from the old Vedic traditions. So I'll tackle those issues as this series wraps up in the last 4 posts. www.andrewmarquis.com. That's the whole real series. Peace out.